these two people. Buddha says that religion must relate to facts of life and not to theories of speculation about God, soul, heaven, or earth. So Buddha says that religion is about the facts of life, and it is not about the God or the soul or the heaven or the earth. It is about the human being. It is about the human nature. It is about the human behavior, and it is not about the heaven, hell, earth, or all these things. Marx says that the purpose of philosophy is to reconstruct the world uh, and not to explain the origin of the universe. So, the philosophy of Marx is to reconstruct the world. Here, he also um, uh, does not talk about the origin of the universe or all these things. So, he is also talking about the reconstruction of the world. So, there is a similarity between them. In both the cases, there is a proposal of for the reconstruction of the world. But when you talk about both the cases, when you talk about Buddha and Karl Marx, both of them talk about the reconstruction of world. Both of them are reconstructing the purposes and functions of religion and philosophy. So what is the basis for this reconstruction? So then what is the basis of for this reconstruction? Buddha says that private ownership of property gives power to one class and power to another, and it is necessary for the good of society that this power be removed by removing its cause. So, Buddha says that that power and property should be equal to all the people. That some people are very powerful, some people are very rich, and the other one are the poor. So this equality should not be there in our society. So when you talk about Karl Marx, he also talks about the distribution of economy. He also said that some people have um, uh, you know, uh, are very rich and the others are very poor. So there should be equal distribution of the economy. So this is the similarity between them. So and comparison of the means. So the next point is comparison of the means. Means are an important issue that we may have to consider first and foremost when we are talking about our destination. So when you talk about any destination, that's how we have to reach to any particular place to our destination. Then what comes means comes the uh, first and foremost thing. Although both the schools of thought are concerned with economic equality, abolition of private property, there could be basic differences in the mean that are adopted by these two. So, both the philosophy, both people like Buddha and Ambedkar, that they are concerned about the economic equality, that uh, people should hold the same amount of money. There should be economic equality. And again, there should be abolish of private property. that some people are very rich, they have, they made the property and others are not able to do that. So there should be an equal distribution of economy and the property. Ambedkar highlights the most important one, that is, without means were to convert a person by changing his moral description, his moral disposition to follow the path voluntarily, and the means adopted by communists are violence and dictatorship of the proletariat. So here Ambedkar and Buddha both are against the inequality in the position, inequality in the economy, and inequality uh, in the inequality in the private property. So they talked about the uh, equality among these things among the people. So in this context, Ambedkar raises the most important question about the very concept of violence. And again, he talks about the violence, the important question that his, now again we are better talks about the concept of violence. That what is violence and how these two people looked into it. So is punishment for a crime violence? So it says that if if it's violence, when someone has committed a crime and he is getting punishment for that, so is it violence? So is war not violence? So what about the war which are being fought between two countries? Are they not violence? This leads us to several related questions in our contemporary context. Very serious debates have taken place recently about capital punishment. Is it not state violence? So what about the capital punishment? What about the punishment given by the government? Is it not the state violence? On the other hand, what about the violence uh, that the culprit has subjected the victims to? And also, as Ambedkar says, it is only communist countries that have fought wars. Again, he said that it is only communist people who have fought wars. So it is that it is not like that. The people, where the communists are not there, they also fought the war. What about the burning of Iraq? So it says that what about the burning of Iraq? There is no communists in the Iraq. There's still, the war and all the things are going on. So what about the burning of Iraq? What do you call the interference of America? So what about the interference of America in all the things? Is it not, violence? Neither Iraq nor America is communist country. So he said that, neither Iraq nor America, are the communist countries. So what is going on between them? Is it not the violence? Then why are they, causing such violence? Why they are doing this? Obviously, it is not to achieve a state of equality and causing each violence. Obviously, uh, it is not to achieve a state of equality and con- contentment, comfort. Then it is better to achieve equality through violence or create violence, but not for equality or not create violence. So, so, so then, you want to create, you know, uh, when you are doing violence to, to wipe out the violence, then, it cannot be, then the peace are, cannot be tolerated, or then the violence cannot be removed. So, now, in that context, also there could be sacrifice of several things uh, that are used as means. So both the philosophies are looking at a similar destination and are coming up with a similar attitude towards ends justifying the means. Can we talk about the superiority of one's means over the other? So, can we talk about the superiority because they are uh, implying one or the other means to uh, minimize the violence. So here he said, here the writer said that so can we say that one means is superior to the other means. Ambedkar refers also to a crucial question about Marxian philosophy, which is bothersome for even the ardent admirers and passionate followers of Marx. That is the question of the withering away of the state. And when will it wither away, and what will take the place of that of the state? Uh, when when uh, it withers away are the two questions that Ambedkar raises. So one thing that we say that withering away of the state, it means that being away of the state, being away of the all these things. So and then what will happen if a person uh, is away from all these things, from the politics, from the economy, then what will take place? So there is a question of Ambedkar that what can be that how uh, one can be away from the things that is going on from the state. On the other hand, similar questions may be raised about Buddha. So it says, first he talks about Marxism, now it says that the similar question can be raised by about Buddha, which Ambedkar does not attempt. So he said that similar question can be raised about Buddha, but these questions were not raised by uh, Buddha, that didn't consider, he didn't attempt for that. For instance, what will, when will the absolute normal disposition, moral disposition be established in a country? So, that means that when or what time will be a moral disposition uh, established in a country? What is the role of the state government in such a country? So, if it happens, then what will be the role of the state government? Will religion play the role of state? When we are taking about, when we are talking about a society on the basis of equality, how can we talk about the state, which is an in, in situation that is vested with power and requires wealth to run its government? So these are the things which have been discussed in the essay that is Buddha and Karl Marx. So thus both the philosophers seem to be a little too idealistic. So when you talk about both the people like Buddha and Karl Marx, it seems that they have the same ideology and they have same kind of they uh, want the same kind of that utopian state that where everyone will be equal. But definitely they are proposing ideal countries where there is no hierarchy and no suffering. And by utopian state, it means that they are proposing an ideal country where there won't be any kind of hierarchy or no suffering because all the people will be equal. There won't be anyone poor or rich. So all the people will have the money with them. So all will be happy. So this kind of a utopian um, country, a utopian state, they have desired for. Ambedkar rightly points out that the two charges that communists have against religion, that Christianity has made people otherworldly and made them suffer poverty in this world, and that religion is the opium for people, cannot be leveled against Buddhism. So Ambedkar says that as the Marxists say, or the Karl Marx say that religion is a like a opium, like opium, and the other charge that that Christianity made people poor because people began to think about another word, and some of them became poor, the other became rich. So he said that these are the two charges which have been leveled by Marxists, uh, by Marx on Christianity on religion, that cannot be leveled against Buddhism because the philosophy of Buddhism is almost the same as the philosophy of Marxism. So ultimately, Ambedkar comes to the conclusion that it is only Buddha who can give one liberty, equality, and fraternity. That equality is of no value without liberty or fraternity. That only Buddha's philosophy offers these three. So Ambedkar says that only following Buddha or Buddhism we can imagine liberty, equality, and fraternity. So, and he says that. without liberty and fraternity, equality cannot be imagined. So, doesn't Buddhism sacrifice liberty for the sake of equality? So he said that, when you talk about Buddhism, didn't they, didn't it uh, sacrifice liberty for the sake of equality? So, and still the larger the question remains. So still that question remains whether we should sacrifice our liberty for equality. And applied to Buddhism as well. Doesn't Buddhism sacrifice for the sake of liberty? And still the larger question remains. Buddha's followers were Buddhist bhikshus. So it is that Buddha's followers are known as Buddhist bhikshus. How many people in society can lead that kind of life? So the life which has been founded by Marxism and Buddhism, how many people in the society can lead such life? And hence the distance between Buddhists uh, and the common people. So then, uh, how much distance there will be between the Buddhists and the other common people, the people who are not Buddhist and people who are Buddhist. So he is trying to say that if, as the followers of the Buddhists are known as Buddhist bhikshus, if they will be living a life like this, then what will be the difference or the gap between them, between Buddhist bhikshus and the common people? So he says that it will be very clear, it will be visible in the society. Is it not another kind of dictatorship? So he says that it will be another kind of dictatorship. That the bhikshus or Buddhist bhikshus will be considered, you know, uh, greater in hierarchy than the common people. It cannot always be voluntary because it snatches away their rights and imposes duties on them much more vehemently. So now we will talk about the caste and gender, which has been mentioned by uh, B.R. Ambedkar. So when you talk about Buddhism or when you talk about Marxism, you won't find caste and gender issues. So in this crucial and significant discussion of a comparison between Buddha and Karl Marx, some questions remain uh, unanswered and some others not raised. So there were many questions and some were not answered and some questions were not proposed. For instance, where does the issue of caste come in that come in this comparison between the two philosophers? So how does how does that issue of caste come in this comparison? Because when these people haven't talked about that caste or gender issues in their work. himself being a Dalit. So himself being a Dalit, Ambedkar fought against the hegemony of East, of hegemony of caste stratification. And we know that India is a, you know, we have caste systems in Indian society. There are, Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. So he says, so because we are Ambedkar himself came from such family, he himself came from Dalit family, so he knows better. The situation of Dalit people are the down to earth people. Why does this age not refer to caste stratification and social uh, uh, equality? So there is a question that why does this essay not talk about all these things? Caste stratification of the social equality. Why it is not talk about this? It just talk about spiritual values apart from economic values being important for a human being. So in the same way, what is a woman's status in Buddhism and Marxism? So as we know that they didn't talk about the gender, they didn't talk about the caste issues in their work. So in the same way, uh, he says, as Ambedkar says, what about the gender, gender equality in our society? This becomes a major problem in the future because keeping 60% of the population outside the scope of analysis. So when there is no question about the gender, and it means that 50% of the population, let's consider that 50% are men and 50% are women. So he says that while not talking about the gender, not talking about the women, it means that 50% of the people are outside of of their 50% of population is out of their analysis. While comparing the two philosophies on establishing a society on the basis of equality or deciding which one is better in achieving the destination. So, while we are comparing these two philosophies, and uh, he is trying to establish or he is trying to portray the the gender issues as well in his writings. When they talk about the equality, it means that equality in all the senses. So they haven't mentioned the gender criteria or something like this, but that is understood. That's what Ambedkar is trying to say. So he says. So while concluding the unit, we will see that a reader will readily agree that this is an interesting approach to both Buddhism and Marxism. So while going to the end of the essay, you will find that um, Ambedkar has made, a sensible, a rational approach towards Buddhism and Marxism. There have been voices of dissent and against the rigidity of Buddhism or its relation uh, in Buddhism and the relevance of Marxism in a society which is stratified at multiple levels. So, our society that is, stratified at multiple levels and the, on the basis of caste, on the basis of class, on the basis of gender, and these things. So, in such context, when you will read the essay of uh, B.R. Ambedkar, you will find that he draw the comparison between Buddhism and Marxism, and he tried to analyze that how both the people or both the philosophies talk about the same idea, but in different ways, in different manners. While Buddha and Marx have not concentrated much on the issues of caste and gender in their philosophies, Ambedkar has extensively written elsewhere about the situation of Dalits and women and have suggested ways and means of improving their predicament. So, uh, we see regularly there hardly you find about gender or are fast in the writings of the Kalmas or in the philosophy of Buddha, but you will see that Dr. B.R. Ambedkar has mentioned all these things. We talked about the gender, we talked about the equality, we talked about the you know the security of the men, and we talked about the abolition of the caste system in our country. So his writing. For being himself from the marginalized people, Ambedkar not only proposes a philosophy for a larger number of people and for and work towards it, but also set himself up as a model by rising to the heights of success and service. So as he himself was from Ambedkar society, from the family, he himself was from downtrodden family. He himself was from from marginalized community. So he had experienced these things better than other people, and so he has uh, continued writing on such topics which bring equality among men and women. Equality in all senses in our so to continue this discussion, one has to be aware of the debate that have taken place recently in India about the role of Ambedkar. While Arun Shori worshipping false God, so here we see that after Ambedkar, you see that there's a writer, Arun Shori, he has written a book, Worshipping of God, and in that book he attacks Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and there is and there is another writer like uh, Ranganayakama writing Okay, so sorry for the disturbance. So here in the last, in the end of the unit, we see that two writers have been mentioned. Like one is Arun Shori. He has written a book that is worshipping false gods. In that he attacks Ambedkar and his followers. And there is another book that is, Ranganayakamma, uh, and who is writing in Telugu. And the title of his book is Buddhudu Kadu, Ambedkar Kadu, Marks Kavale. It means that neither Buddha, Ambedkar, nor Marx is required. So in this book also, he, talks about another dimension of the argument as to how Karl Marx provides a complete solution to the problems of inequality and best means to achieve a society of equality. So these two writers, which I have mentioned, uh, so their writing, they talked about that how um, Karl Marx, did the best to achieve inequality in our society. So it means that it is the writings of Karl Marx, which has, you know, which has given a better solution for the equal society. So it was about unit number six. That was Buddha or Karl Marx. Now we will discuss unit number seven. That is, selected poems of Rabindranath Tagore. So in this unit, uh, we have selected poems of Rabindranath Tagore, and we will discuss that. So before going to that, we will read, something. We will discuss something about Rabindranath Tagore. Rabindranath Tagore is a household name. How how can anyone who not knowing, how can anyone who not know the man who wrote the Indian national anthem? The only one perhaps who has authored the national anthem of two countries, India and Bangladesh. So, and I think almost everyone you know, who has the interest in literature know about Rabindranath Tagore. And uh, he is the one who authored the national anthem of two countries, and perhaps he is the only one who authored the national anthem of two countries. One is India and the another one is Bangladesh. And he is the first Indian to receive Nobel Prize in Literature in 1913. And he received uh, Nobel Prize for his poetic work that is Gitanjali. So Gitanjali, originally written in Bengali language, Bangla, and later it was translated by author himself, by Rabindranath Tagore himself into English. And that English translation received Nobel Prize in Literature in 1913. So, but how many of us know that he was denied formal education? So you know that he was a great poet and he was a great writer. He wrote novels, drama, short stories, poems as well. But very few people know that he was, denied from a formal education. And yet, by the age of 50, he was Bengal's national poet. So, He was denied from formal education, but by the age of 50, he was Bengal's national poet. He was such a popular poet that he became the Bengal's national poet. With his exposure to English romantic poets and Indian devotional poetry, he was able to fuse the two traditions in his poetry. So he read, that British romantic poets. He was interested in the poetry of romantic poets, and other thing was that a devotional poetry of our country, Indian devotional poetry. So when you will read his poems, when you will read the poems of Rabindranath Tagore, you will find that his poetry are a combination of these two things which he had read and he was interested in. His poems are mostly meditation on God, man, and nature. So when you read the poem of Rabindranath Tagore, you will find that these are a kind of devotional poems. They are about the man, about the God, about the nature. His own interest in music, and who is not aware of Rabindranath Sangeet, has influenced his poetry to the extent that though many consider his poems as prose poetry, there is a lyrical quality about it. So he was very much interested into uh, music as well. So when you will read his poems, you will find uh, that his poetry has musical quality because he was interested in music. And when you will when you will read his poems, it seems that they are in the form of prose, even though they are like prose poetry, but you will find musical quality, lyrical quality in his poems. He was truly bilingual and has created Bengali poems in volumes such as Nai Vidya, Heya, and Gitanjali into English. So, he has created and translated. Better to say that created his poems, a few of his poems from Bengali to English. And his Gitanjali was originally written in Bengali, and later he translated it into English, and that fetched Nobel Prize for him. He has written in various genres like short story, poetry, play, autobiography, diary, novel. So he has tried his hand almost in all the genres. Many of his works deal with contemporary Bengali society. For instance, Gora, Sandalika, and Chaturanga, and Hare Baire. When you talk about these works, these novels, all these novels talk about the contemporary Bengali society. But how many of us are aware that this same man who gave up his knighthood after the Jallianwala Bagh massacre was so disillusioned with the nationalist movement because of its emphasis on non-cooperation and rejection of the West that he withdrew from it by 1921. His writing benefited from his being an educator, one who started the Santiniketan. He was the one who started the Santiniketan, uh, and his writing benefited from his being an educator, an artist, and a widely traveled person who met and interacted with intellectuals like Albert Einstein. So, he was such an educator, he was a traveler, he was the person who met great people like Albert Einstein. So, uh, these, this, hollow knowledge has been, inculcated in the poetry composed by him. He has met people like Albert Einstein, Roman Roland, and H.G. Wells. Whether one agrees with his views or not, one is simply amazed at his sweep of interest. People may agree with him or not. People may agree with his views or not, but none can deny his scholarship and none can deny the importance of his poetry, uh, you know, in literature and particularly in the first Bengali society. So what was the nature? Uh, you know, what is the importance of nature in Tagore's poetry? So, he is also known as a nature poet. So what is the importance of nature in Tagore's poetry? Most of us know Rabindranath Tagore breezy April in the same manner as we know Toru does our Katrina tree. So, uh, uh, we might have read about Toru and about her Katerina Philip, that how she talked about her childhood and how she talked about nature and how she was also interested in nature. So in the same way, uh, you might be knowing about Breezy April as well, which was composed by Rabindranath Tagore, and it was, a nature poem, and he was also very much interested in nature. We appreciate both the poems for the easy and pleasing manner by which nature is depicted. So, in both the poems, one is by Rabindranath Tagore and the other one is by Thoreau. Both the poems we see the presence of nature and we appreciate them and the way they have been composed and, and the pleasing manner nature has been depicted in these poems. Even the lines with which the poem Breezy April begins rocks us gently and soothingly with its music. Even the first line of in this poem, soothes us, gives us a kind of, happiness. And we will see that, the line is mentioned here. We are captivated by the way the human takes on attributes of nature. All my boughs break into blossom. So all my boughs break into blossom. All my leaves break into funeral. So these are the first lines of that poem. So even the first line itself are captivating and a kind of musical. And the way nature too takes on human attributes. I know all your you know uh, fitful fancies, leafy language, and fleeting footsteps. This kind of romantic attitude that Rabindranath Tagore has towards nature makes me question what the scriptures say. That in this poem, what the scripture says. He writes that after 50, thou walk through the forest. So our scriptures say, but we say a forest retreat is better in the youthful days. So, uh, That's how, scripture says that after 50, it means that when you will become aged, then you will, walk towards the, uh, forest. It means that you will walk towards the nature, you will like nature. But as Tagore says that, why to wait till 50? Why can't we walk toward the forest or towards the nature, or why can't we, enjoy nature in our youth, youthful days? He is unable to understand how scripture can dictate such a course of action only for older people. That he said that why, these things are only for older people. Why young cannot, enjoy the nature? Why the youth cannot enjoy the nature? And for him, the appreciation of beauty, the escape from the humdrum of daily life, the desire for privacy and the freedom are, etc., are the needs of the youth. So he says that, the appreciation of the beauty, escaping from this humdrum life, that is escaping into the nature, into the silence of the nature, and that privacy and freedom. These are the, needs of youth. For nature is a life force, not a passive recreate. And he says that nature is a life force. It is not a passive recreate that, only only elderly people, should go there. Why can't youth enjoy the nature? And, um, young men or the youth should enjoy the nature. It is not only for the elderly people. Who else can experience such sensuous details uh, as Gokus flowering in their plenty, poets killing themselves with thinking, nature, outdoors, leaves and creepers, the merrier, park, hiding, seeking. So, he is mentioning these points, these things in his poem. That see how beautiful nature is. The birds are chirping, different types of birds, are making different noise, and some are singing, some are chirping. So these things can be enjoyed by youth. So these things are not only for the old people. And when you will go to the nature, when you will escape into the nature, you will find that how vibrant it is. And uh, so this to enjoy this vibrancy, this power, we must have power. We should be able to vibrate ourselves. Then we will be able to enjoy nature. So this kind of exhilaration that nature provides needs to be experienced in the full. So he said that the power, the exhilaration, the energy, the music that nature provides should be experienced in full. And when you are older, then you will not be able to experience them the way you will be able to experience them when you are in youth. Nature too offers an escape from the stifling atmosphere of the house and allows the young to experience freedom. And nature too offers an escape. So nature, from this, humdrum life, nature offers an, escape, and it suits us. So he again says that no wonder then that helpless youth are always on the lookout for world and growth. They know full well, liberations never to be led, never to be had indoors. And he said that the young men, the youth, uh, they know that the liberation can be achieved, in nature. It cannot be uh, held at home, at indoors. So, but they are so much busy in their day-to-day life that they are not able to enjoy the nature. But you know, the young people, the youth, should enjoy the nature, and uh, you know, he must feel the nature. We see here Tagore believes that nature provides both pleasure and liberation. So nature provides both pleasure as well as liberation. So liberation from our humdrum life, and when you will go to the nature, you will feel a kind of solace and pleasure. Uh, and so we must enjoy nature. We must get some time to go into the nature. He would want his youth to walk to the forest, but not live around. Liberation does not mean idleness, but a realization of freedom through experiencing nature. So, and liberation doesn't mean that you leave your work and all those things, but you must, realize the nature, and you must experience the nature, and for some time you should be away from this hustle bustle of city and hustle bustle of our daily life. There, let them work hard all through the night without rest. So uh, then there in the nature, let them work hard in the nature, let them enjoy, let them experience the nature, and uh, have some time for them. So it is 11:30 now, and we will stop now, and the remaining things will be covered in the next class. So I hope the class was useful for you, and you are benefited from the class. And thank you for joining the class. Thank you for attending the class, and we'll see you again on next Saturday. So, so we will leave the class now, and thank you so much. Bye. Take care.